My wife had an affair with our business partner, and now she's trying to cheat me out of a $500, $0 inheritance while claiming the house and our savings. I found out she's been secretly meeting with lawyers and forging documents behind my back. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me, especially not in such a brutal way. It's like something out of a bad movie, but it's my life. The most shocking part. It all unraveled when I stumbled onto something I never should have seen, an email thread, a series of secret meetings, and a plan that was about to wipe me out financially. And it wasn't just some random affair, it was with our business partner, Mark. I mean, how much worse can it get? It started with little things, her late nights, her phone always hidden, her avoiding me whenever I tried to talk. I thought maybe she was working late or had some secret hobby. She's a fiercely independent woman, always had her own ideas about everything, but I never suspected she was capable of this kind of betrayal. It all came to a head a couple of weeks ago. I was going through some papers in the den, just trying to organize things before the weekend, and I noticed her phone laying face down on the table. Nothing unusual, right? Except that she was acting weird that day, more nervous than usual, packing around, avoiding my gaze. I figured she was hiding something, so I picked up her phone just to have a peek. I wasn't snooping, I was just curious. When I unlocked it, I saw a series of messages, text exchanges with Mark mostly. At first, I thought they were just business stuff, but then I saw the way they talked. Flirty, intimate, even suggestive. My stomach dropped. She was talking about meeting him after hours. They had plans, secret plans. That's when I saw the real truth. She was cheating on me with him, and it wasn't just a fling. It was something she was planning to hide from me for a long time. I felt numb at first, like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, Lisa, the woman I trusted with everything, was screwing around with our business partner, Mark. And it wasn't just about sex. I could tell from the tone of the messages that they had some kind of emotional connection, or at least that's what she wanted me to think. But I knew better. I knew that the way she was lying about her meetings, her secret texts, her late nights, it was all part of a bigger lie. I started piecing things together. How she'd been acting distant lately, how she'd been trying to manipulate me about money, about the will, the house, our savings. She's always been a bitch about money, but now it made sense. She was scheming, trying to set herself up for some kind of financial freedom, and I was just a pawn in her game. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd seen, every lie she told me, every sneaky look she threw my way. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she betray me, our marriage, everything we built? I thought about all the times I'd trusted her, all the plans we made together. Now I was faced with the brutal truth. She was planning to cheat me out of our inheritance, the house, and our savings. $500,000 she was trying to claim for herself. And she was so brazen about it. She'd been secretly meeting with lawyers, forging documents behind my back. I found receipts, legal papers with her signature, all fake documents that showed she was trying to transfer assets into her name. I kept asking myself, how long has she been planning this? Did she ever love me? Or was I just some fool she was using? The betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just about money or the house. It was about trust, about the fact that she had lied to my face for months. I felt like I'd been living in a nightmare. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. All I wanted was answers, but I already knew I'd have to confront her, face her lies head on. I had to decide what to do next, but right then, I knew that everything I believed about my marriage was shattered. That's when I started planning my next move. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach that only grew as the day went on. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been blind, that I'd missed all the signs. Lisa, my wife, was acting normal, too normal maybe. She was in the kitchen making coffee, pretending everything was fine. But I knew better. I'd seen the messages, the fake documents, the way she kept sneaking her phone into her purse whenever I got near. I knew she was hiding something, and I was determined to find out exactly what it was. I decided to dig deeper. I couldn't just confront her blindly. I had to be smart about this. I started by going through her emails, her bank accounts, her phone logs. I found a series of encrypted messages sent to Mark, discussing legal strategies, fake signatures, and transfer deeds. She was orchestrating her entire plan, and it was clear she was trying to cut me out completely. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. She was trying to pull a fast one, and she thought she could get away with it. I also found a folder on her laptop labeled "For the Lawyers," filled with forged documents, fake signatures, fake IDs, even some mail from a shady law firm she'd hired behind my back. She was serious about this. That's when I decided to confront her. I waited until she was in the living room, scrolling through her phone again, probably plotting her next move. I sat down across from her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Lisa," I said, "I know what you've been doing. I've seen the messages, the documents. You're trying to cheat me out of our inheritance, our house, our savings. How long have you been planning this?" Her face twisted into a look of surprise, then quickly turned into a defensive sneer. "What are you talking about? You're paranoid. You're just jealous because I've been busy with work." She spat it out like it was nothing, like I was crazy for even suspecting her. But I knew better. I had the evidence, and I was ready to lay it all out. She started with the usual lies: "I never did anything wrong. You're overreacting. You're just insecure." But I knew she was lying. Her eyes kept darting around, and her hands trembled slightly. I pressed her further. "You've been meeting with lawyers behind my back. You forged documents. You're trying to take everything we have. How long have you been planning this?" Her response was a bitter laugh. "You think I would do something like that? You're crazy. You're just jealous because I'm more successful than you. You're insecure, that's all." It was classic Lisa, blame shifting, denying everything, trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't buying it. I had the proof. I had the emails, the fake signatures, the receipts. I told her I knew she was cheating, scheming, trying to steal from me. Her face betrayed her moment of panic, but she quickly masked it with a bitchy sneer. That confrontation was a turning point. I saw her true colors that day, her manipulative, selfish side. She thought she could lie her way out of it, but I was done playing her game. I told her I was going to call the lawyer, get the documents checked, and put an end to her lies once and for all. Her reaction: she got angry, yelled, told me I was crazy and paranoid, that I was ruining everything. But I didn't care. I knew what I had to do. I was furious, betrayed, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. All my trust in her, in our marriage, was crumbling. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind for so long. As I sat there, staring at her, I realized I was at a crossroads. I could lose everything, or I could fight back. I decided I wasn't going to be the fool who got played. I was going to take control of this mess, expose her lies, and protect what's mine. The first step was clear. I was going to get a lawyer, get those forged documents analyzed, and prepare to fight for my rights. I didn't know exactly how this was going to end, but I knew I wouldn't let her walk away with $500,000 in our house. Not without a fight. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I was determined to come out on top, no matter what. Over the next few days, I threw myself into gathering evidence and planning my move. I couldn't trust Lisa anymore. Not after what I'd found, not after her blatant lies. I contacted a lawyer I knew from a previous case, someone who specialized in inheritance disputes and fraud. I laid everything out: the forged documents, the fake signatures, the secret meetings, her attempts to transfer assets behind my back. The lawyer listened carefully, asked for all the evidence I had, and then told me I had a strong case. She warned me that Lisa was a master manipulator, and that I'd need to be prepared for a fight. But at least I had something concrete now, proof that Lisa was trying to screw me over. Meanwhile, Lisa kept acting innocent, trying to gaslight me, saying I was overreacting and that I was paranoid. She even had the nerve to call me jealous and possessive, as if I was the one who was crazy for suspecting her. But I knew better. I knew she was lying, scheming, and that her bitchy attitude was just her way of trying to deflect. I started noticing small things: her trying to hide her phone more, her canceling meetings last minute, even hiding papers in her purse. It was obvious she was trying to cover her tracks, but I was one step ahead now. One night I caught her red-handed. I was going through some of her emails on the laptop I'd borrowed, and I found a new message from Mark. They were planning to meet that very night, at a hotel, of course. I couldn't believe it. I was furious. I decided I had to do something drastic. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, aimed at the entryway where I'd seen her hide her phone. I wanted to catch her in the act if she tried to sneak out again. That night I waited, heart pounding, knowing I was close to catching her in her lie. Sure enough, around midnight, the camera picked up her sneaking out of the bedroom, slipping her shoes on quietly. I followed her to the front door, keeping my distance. She was heading out with her purse, probably to meet Mark. I felt a mix of rage and betrayal. I snapped a picture of her leaving, then called my lawyer immediately. I told her what I saw, and she said we could use that as evidence. That was the moment I realized I couldn't just confront her anymore. I had to take legal action. If she was planning to meet him again, I needed to act fast to stop her from pulling any more stunts. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with the lawyer. We went over the evidence, discussed the next steps, and she told me to prepare for a legal battle. She also suggested I file for a temporary restraining order against Lisa, just to keep her from transferring any more assets or forging documents. I agreed. The thought of her trying to cut me out of everything, including our house and savings, made my blood boil. I was sick of her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude. I felt like I'd been played for a fool for too long. Now I was finally taking control, fighting to protect what's mine. As I sat in that lawyer's office, I realized that I couldn't let her win. I'd loved her once, believed in us, but she was a different person now. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, trust, and integrity. I knew I had to prepare for the worst. She might try to fight me tooth and nail, and she'd probably lie her way out of it. But I also knew I had the truth on my side. I was ready to go to battle for my inheritance, my house, and my dignity. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I wasn't going down without a fight. This was just the beginning of a war I wasn't prepared to lose. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Once I handed over all the evidence, screenshots, forged documents, the camera footage, the lawyer started preparing the paperwork for a full investigation. I could feel the tension building, knowing Lisa was probably panicking. She was always good at hiding her true intentions, but now she was cornered. Her bitchy attitude only got worse. She started throwing tantrums, yelling at me, accusing me of ruining her life, claiming I was paranoid and jealous. But I didn't care about her tantrums anymore. All I cared about was stopping her from stealing our future, from screwing me out of everything I'd worked so hard to build. One evening, I came home to find her in the living room, her face twisted in anger. She was clutching a folder, one that looked suspiciously like legal papers. She tried to play it cool, acting like she was just going over some bills, but I knew better. I stood there staring her down and told her I was onto her. I told her I had enough evidence to prove she was forging documents and planning to transfer assets behind my back. Her eyes widened for a moment, then she quickly recovered, putting on that bitchy smirk. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I'm smarter than you. You think you can control me. You're pathetic." That was the moment I realized she was desperate. She'd been caught and she didn't like it. Her lies were crumbling, and she knew she couldn't spin her way out of this one. I told her I was filing for a court order to freeze all her accounts and prevent her from doing any more damage. I also demanded she hand over her phone and any other devices she'd been using for secret meetings. She hesitated, then finally handed me her phone, probably because she knew she had no choice. I scrolled through her messages, found even more proof of her planning with Mark, and showed her the evidence. Her face turned red with fury and shame. The next day, the court granted the temporary restraining order. Lisa was ordered to stay away from the house, and any attempt to transfer or forge documents would be illegal. I also started the process of freezing her bank accounts and investigating her legal activities. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. I'd finally taken control of the situation, but the emotional toll was heavy. I kept thinking about how she'd lied, manipulated, and schemed behind my back. I thought about the years we'd spent together and how she'd betrayed everything we built. It hurt more than I thought it would, like a punch to the gut every time I remembered her bitchy smirk or her sneaky emails. Meanwhile, Lisa wasn't backing down. She kept trying to spin stories, calling me paranoid, accusing me of ruining her reputation. She even tried to manipulate the lawyer, claiming I was trying to control her for no reason. But the evidence was clear, and the judge saw through her act. Things started to spiral out of control. She hired her own lawyer, trying to fight the restraining order and claim she had every right to the assets. But I knew her game. She was trying to stall, too. Buy herself more time to hide or destroy evidence. I was ready for that. I had more proof coming in, and I was determined to see this through to the end. The most infuriating part, she kept insisting she was the victim, that I was the one betraying her. She called me jealous, insecure, and accused me of trying to ruin her reputation because I was possessive. But I knew better. I knew she was the one who'd been cheating, forging, scheming, everything. I didn't want her to get away with it. I'd been through hell trying to piece this all together, and I was finally starting to see justice. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about standing up to her lies, her manipulative bitchiness, and her attempts to screw me over when I'd trusted her the most. I was done being the fool. Now I was fighting back hard. By this point, Lisa's veneer of innocence was completely shattered in my eyes. The courtroom hearings were brutal, but I went in with all the evidence laid out: her forged signatures, the fake documents, the secret meetings she tried so desperately to hide. I could see her trying to play the victim, acting all bitchy and entitled, but the judge wasn't buying it. The courtroom was tense, and I felt a strange sense of relief when the judge granted my motion to freeze her assets and declared her in contempt for forging documents. That was the turning point. She was furious, screaming at me in the hallway afterward, calling me a jealous psycho, claiming I was ruining her life for no reason. The thing is, I didn't care about her screams anymore. What mattered was stopping her from stealing everything: our house, our savings, the inheritance she was trying to cheat me out of. She kept trying to manipulate the situation, throwing tantrums, trying to get her lawyer to push back on the court orders, but I was prepared. I had already hired a forensic accountant to trace the money trail, and they found even more suspicious activity: transfers, fake signatures, and hidden accounts. It was obvious she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. That's when I decided I'd had enough of her bitchy attitude. I confronted her directly in her lawyer's office, where she was trying to argue her way out of the legal mess. I laid everything out: proof of her scheme, her lies, her attempts to forge documents and manipulate the legal system. Her face was a mask of anger and frustration, but her words were hollow. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was paranoid and insecure, but I wasn't buying any of it anymore. I told her I was going to fight for every penny she tried to steal, and I was going to make sure she paid the price for her betrayal. The worst part was seeing her trying to manipulate others: her lawyer, the judge, even her friends, telling everyone I was some jealous, controlling husband. But I knew the truth. I knew she was the one who'd been lying, cheating, forging, scheming. The more she tried to gaslight me, the more I realized how deep her bitchy, manipulative nature went. I'd been blind for too long, but now I was finally awake. I had the evidence, I had the law on my side, and I was ready to fight her to the bitter end. In the meantime, I started taking steps to secure the house and our savings. I changed all the passwords, made sure the bank accounts were frozen, and hired a private investigator to keep an eye on her movements. I didn't trust her anymore, not after everything I'd uncovered. I also reached out to the inheritance attorney to make sure the will and estate were protected. I knew she was trying to claim that $500,000 for herself, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I was done being a victim, and I was going to make sure she paid for her treachery. Every day brought new surprises, more lies, more schemes, but I was ready. I'd learned a lot about her true nature, about her manipulative, bitchy side, and I realized that I'd been settling for less for too long. I thought I loved her, but turns out I was just afraid to face the truth. Now I was doing everything I could to protect what's mine, and I promised myself I'd never let her get away with this. not without a fight. The final stretch was the hardest, but also the most clarifying. Once I had all the legal groundwork laid out, assets frozen, her attempts to forge documents shut down, and her lawyer scrambling to keep her from losing everything, she finally realized she wasn't going to get away with her scheme. The court hearings were brutal, with her trying every trick in the book, bitchy, manipulative, full of lies, but the evidence was irrefutable. I could see her frustration boiling over, her bitchy attitude turning into outright anger. She screamed, called me names, accused me of controlling her, but none of it mattered anymore. I had everything I needed to prove her guilt. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson I learned is how much trust can be betrayed when you least expect it. I've been blind for so long, believing in her, trusting her every word. I thought we had a good life, built on mutual respect. Turns out, she was just waiting for the right moment to screw me over. Her selfishness and manipulative bitchiness finally caught up with her. Seeing her lose it in court, realizing she was going to face the consequences of her actions, felt like a huge weight lifting off my shoulders. In the end, I managed to recover most of what she tried to steal. The inheritance was protected, the house was safe, and her attempts to forge documents and transfer assets were declared null and void. She was ordered to pay back the money she had illegally taken, and her reputation took a serious hit. I didn't gloat. I just felt a strange sense of closure. I knew I'd be fine without her, that I could rebuild what was lost, and that I'd learned a hard but valuable lesson about trust, betrayal, and the importance of protecting yourself. She's out of my life now, and honestly, I feel a weight lifted. No more bitchy arguments, no more lies, no more feeling like I was walking on eggshells. I've become more cautious, more aware of the red flags, and I've learned to value honesty above all else. I won't say I'm completely over the pain. Trust is hard to rebuild after a betrayal like this, but I'm moving forward. I'm focusing on myself, on my kids, and on making sure I never get again. To anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts, keep your evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you really are. I've come out of this stronger, more aware, and with a clearer sense of what I deserve. Life's too short to waste on people who don't respect you. And trust me, once you see someone's true colors, everything else becomes painfully clear. I'm finally free, and honestly, that's all I ever wanted.